Hey, what's up, everybody? Ballietbran here. So today we got a very special live stream. The title of the video itself is Ballietbran and Glenn Carlson manifesting what you want. And so one thing that comes with a lot of the wealth is, now what are you going to do with the wealth, and how are you going to kind of pursue some of, the greater desires in life and things like this. So once again, it's going to be, we're going to hear a little bit about Glenn's story, talk maybe a little bit about Hex and Pulse and stuff. But yeah, we're pretty much going to be outlining once again, even if you don't have the wealth right now, what are you going to do once you have it, and kind of just preparing now for that future success or the current success that you may be, facing. So without further ado, we're not going to do the intro today. We're just going to bring Glenn on. And then once again, we'll just play it by ear. Hey, Glenn, how's it going?
Hello, Brad. Fabulous, fabulous. Thank you so much for having me on, Brad. I can't thank you enough. It's wonderful.
Of course, man. Yeah, I know you've got the the name there. So Glenn is obviously your name, but the name is under Venus Love Factor is what most Hexicans would recognize Glenn as. So I always see you in my streams, the other Hexican streams. And so for people that don't know, it's Venus Love Factor.
Yes, sir. I try to get in there and participate in the community and be supportive and encouraging, and because we're really all in this together. So I just try to do my part. And thank you for doing this, Brand, because like you had mentioned, we all have something to share, and we all need to kind of step up, offer who we are, give our perspective, and contribute to the community.
I agree 1,000%. We've already got a person in the chat there saying, Hexterbator saying, morning, Bran and Glenn from Alice Springs, Australia. So we got someone from over there. And, if anyone has any questions in the chat, once again, we'll just be hearing a lot about Glenn's story and some of the other things. But yeah, do you want to maybe kick it off with, I know we've kind of got like a general outline. Do you maybe want to kick it off with whatever you want to start off with?
Okay, well, first of all, hello, Hexterbator. I can't help but say it, but he's from Australia, Alice Springs, and I've lived in Australia twice. I've been all over the world, and so thank you to all the Aussies who are out there doing the Aussie live streams, and the ladies from Ausland. I love all that stuff. So thanks for being here, Hexterbator.
It's interesting that you say that, because we do have quite a huge Australian community, and the cool thing about Hex, but even with PulseChain too, it's just been so much more dramatic and whatnot. But yeah, just having a global, worldwide community is really awesome. We've got Joseph Byler saying, one day closer to PulseChain launch means it's a great day. Some people are kind of rushing in now. Hello, Wealth. American Dissonance says, you the man, Brandon Balliet, good guest recently. Yeah, I think once again, as Glenn said, everyone's got their own story to tell, and also their own like skill sets and things that they're very good at and that they can contribute with. So I think what we hear today is just going to be a sample. We're definitely going to be doing more streams and things like this in the future. But yeah, Glenn, do you want to maybe kick it off wherever you want to?
Okay, well, it's kind of a long story, but basically what I want to offer is like a spiritual perspective about money. And when you get that money, how are you going to handle it? And what is your, basically, how are you going to handle that money? So I'm going to tell a few stories about that and give folks a different view of the stuff. Because I've had money and not had money, and been to the other side of the planet and back 3 times by myself. I'm obviously an older guy. So that's my basic purpose. And then in the end, Brandon and I would like to share our gift to you guys, which is it's a little document that I created about how to manifest what your heart really wants. And that's going to be super important when this money rolls in. You're going to have to be able to handle your mind and what your heart wants, and keep that stuff in perspective as you go forward. So, I think I've got some interesting little stories to tell you. And I'd really like to start, but just by saying how much I just totally appreciate being in the Hex Pulse community. It's just so fantastic. The people, outstanding, amazing. And, Richard is the king. He created the kingdom. And guys like you, Bran, and all the rest of the streamers, you guys are the knights in shining armor that are expanding the kingdom, and it really is, because we're, Pulse is going to launch. And those of us Hexicans, if our hearts and minds are in the right place, we're going to be, we're going to have a lot of, let's say, power to guide this in a good direction. I think that's an important thing. It's not just about having money, a lot more to it, which we're going to get into in the stream.
Mm-hmm.
But I just can't thank you guys enough. The generosity in this community is amazing,
Well, and I think a lot of it, as you mentioned, it does start with Richard, right? He's been leading by example, and even in the Bitcoin community, when he was a maximalist in 2017 in public, he had his sci-fi book, and he had always been giving back and spreading good information and facts. Bitfinesse is saying magnificent subject matter, Ballietbran. So once again, it is something that people are interested in, and for someone like myself, that's kind of never really been wealthy until, I don't know, the past couple of years. They are things that if you don't focus and you don't prepare for that sudden wealth syndrome, then it can really like knock you off guard. And things like this are kind of important to be studying, learning, and focusing now, because I think everyone that's in Hex and Pulse right now, no matter what your financial situation is, with the time in the market itself, we've seen $100 turn into $1 million. We've seen 1,000 turn into 10 million, and that doesn't include the yield from the staking. So we've got Finn Bear. He says, "Hello, younger brother of mine. We need to get Brandon to 5,000 subs. That would be awesome." We got Hex in Effect. We've got TS Froshman, and then Marion as well. Nice to see you, Marion. A great guest and great topic. So yeah, man, if you want to just kick it off, maybe, I don't know, a little bit about yourself or wherever you want to start it. I know you've got, a lot to talk about. Once again, this won't be our only stream. It'll be kind of just a sample and a preparation for what we have. And then for people also, as Glenn mentioned in the description, the very first link is just a Google document for an article and tool that he's created for manifesting.
Yeah, it's called, I got it right here. I'll show it to you guys. Hopefully you can see this. It's called The Rules of Manifesting. How to manifest what your heart really wants. It's like 15 pages of content. It's like a playbook. It's not work. It's not a workbook. It's a playbook. You get in there and it guides you how to tap into your heart and identify what's really important to you, because having all this wealth is going to be fantastic. But even higher than that is, okay, now that I got all this money, what is my highest possible destiny that I can manifest? Okay. What is my greatest fulfillment and satisfaction in this life? And I'm thinking like 10 years, 20 years, 40 years from where you're at now. My perspective would be is, okay, you got money, you have wealth. What is your greatest destiny in this life? And when you put your attention on fulfillment and satisfaction, it can help you kind of bypass some of the bumps in the road that are inevitably going to be there when you manifest all this money, especially if it gets into multi-millions. It's not all roses and ice cream. So that's my perspective, is to help broaden your perspective a little bit about achieving genuine fulfillment in this life. And money is a part of that. So but one of the things I really wanted to share is again, how amazing and generous this community is and the power that we have available. And I look at these guys like you, Bran, and Big Kurkowski. He paid for hexologists and her whole family to go to England. And then you got, the God Whale. Oh my God, Ski Cat gives away millions. Discourse Syndicate, the Quant Gang, Crypto Sparbook, all the guys who created Vegas, the streamers. I mean, I'm so appreciative.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, you're definitely right, and the community itself, right? I'm a huge fan of the saying of like you're only as strong as like your weakest link. Like we really are like a chain link or like a bond type of deal, and yeah, being able to educate others like Richard has done, lift other people up, but then also for those that have gone through the sudden wealth syndrome, for those like yourself that have all of these tools and wisdom that you can share. I think it would really behoove all of us to learn from each other and kind of just be able to grow and be successful together, right? Versus trying to learn all of the lessons themselves.
Yeah. Well, speaking of our buddies in the community, I want to give a shout out to Conrad Zen, just because he put out these days everybody's curious, what's the price going to be? What's the price? It's the big talk in the community. And, Conrad's an older guy like me. We're both in our 60s, so I want to give a shout out to him. So why would you listen to Conrad and his price predictions? Well, from my perspective, the guy's been there from day one. He's buddies with Richard. He's mined Bitcoin. He was a part of the Bitcoin Foundation. He's a multi-millionaire, an international man. And the reason I'm saying that is because he said just a few days ago, Hex will go to $10. It will go to $100. It will go to $1,000. It will go to $10,000. So offering this perspective to some of the new guys in the community and ladies, hey, maybe the guy's got a point. Maybe it is going to go to $10,000. So I'm saying this to provide more certainty for people in the community, because, the mind is naturally going to question, well, can it really go to $10,000? Well, I don't know, but hey, some of these guys with, 40 years of international experience and then been there since day one in crypto, hey, maybe we ought to listen. And so I heard you mention something about Richard too and his price prediction. Brand, want to comment?
Yeah, I was gonna say. So I'm looking for the main zoomed out random line, but Richard has the random line, right? That's just going up and to the right, just a diagonal, and Hex has been following it, almost exactly. It's almost like when Wales only talks about the logarithmic functions, the log 2 scale. That it's cool that it is programmable money and that it is kind of following that trajectory. As far as the random line itself, Richard has mentioned that he used to share a photo that was up to like $300, and it's got a general time frame as well. But then Richard was also saying that, hey, I've never showed anyone. I'm kind of scared to show people the real random line, because that thing is literally going to over $100,000, like $1 million, things like this. And once again, these are things that in Bitcoin, when Bitcoin was under a penny, when Bitcoin was under $1, people never thought that it could happen. And it shocked the whole world. But the point that I'm getting at is Hex is designed to do these things, and it is designed to, I mean, once we surpass $1, I think it's going to be very similar to a penny, where we kept skyrocketing upwards. But I just agree with the sentiment that you talk about and that Conrad talks about of, prepare now for it to be $10,000 in the future and $100 and things like this, because we just see with how quick Hex's performance has been that it can perform a lot more quickly than people think. And once again, with Maddie Allen and kind of the topic that we're talking about, that can really take a lot of people off guard. And so it's something that's important to think about now, to visualize what you're going to do with the wealth and things like this, because once you have the money problem solved, now it's like, what are you going to do with that? Are you going to, constantly consume and things like this? Or do you maybe want to, also have some sort of like philanthropic or some sort of side that Richard's doing, where it's like, okay, now we've had our fun. Let's make the world a better place.
Yeah, for probably 20 years, or as long as I can kind of be aware of it, I've wanted to become a multimillionaire philanthropist. I'm a 9 numerologically, so I have a natural desire to benefit humanity. In fact, let me show you something here. I don't know if this is the right time for this, you guys, or not, but I wrote this, we'll get into my story about my near-death event and all this stuff, but 2014, I wrote this book. I'll just put it up here. It's called The Miraculous Solution, A Guide to Personal and Planetary Transformation. Okay. So here we are 10 years later, and we're going to have the wealth, you guys, to help participate in some personal and planetary transformation, and so that's kind of my message to folks. I'm going to get more into the spirituality of this, perhaps, and how spirituality and money are sort of together, and of course, I'm an older guy, and 40 years ago there weren't a lot of so-called spiritual people that were millionaires and multimillionaires. It was mostly business people, but now we got new age multimillionaires all over the place. So it's up to us to create some fantastic, positive, spiritual, loving, amazing things in the world. So this little gift that Bran and I are offering, the rules of manifesting, how to manifest what your heart really wants. It will guide you to go into your heart and kind of close your eyes, get into a little meditative state, and communicate with your heart. Ask it what it really wants, and it's going to tell you, look, it's this and this, and it's just going to come through real clear as a bell to your conscious mind. And then when you're in that kind of relaxed state, let's say, the ego isn't in charge, so you are going to be able to more deeply identify what your heart really does want. And in my experience, that's going to make a lot of difference. Totally. going forward.
Well, it's true. You have to, anything that you're working towards. I mean, just look at Richard, right? With the design intention of Hex wanting to be the global reserve currency and all of these ambitious aspirations that he has. I can promise you that doesn't just happen overnight and willy-nilly. Richard's very, very thoughtful and has a lot of intent when he's doing something or when he's creating something. And so, you have to know that he's done the same things that you're talking about, where, you're thinking about something with a purpose, with the goal. And obviously the goal itself is get people what they want first, right? Get them wealthy, and then be able to solve a lot of the major problems that are going on. But maybe tell people a little bit about your story. You mentioned having like a near-death experience in your life and things like this, but can you maybe just take it back to wherever you want in the timeline and just tell us a little bit more about who Glenn is and kind of where you found this path in the first place?
Okay, sure. Well, part of my intent here was to convey to folks that, and I'm going to tell you my story. It's basically my whole childhood was like a kind of in a
Looks like we're cutting out a little bit here. Hoping that Glenn comes back. Let me just say hi to the chat real quick. I know sometimes okay, sorry, you cut out for just a second. What were you saying about the childhood?
Was my point is to because there's a lot of new investors in here and they're not sure if they can do it. They're not, their self-confidence isn't really, God, can I really do this? Am I really going to be a millionaire? Is that possible? So there's a lot of, some folks just don't have quite the level of belief in themselves based on a tragic childhood or whatever kind of emotional problems they've had. So I'm going to tell my story. And after you hear it, I think you're going to realize, hey, no matter what my shitty little past has been, man, I can do this. This is amazing. Hex and Pulse are fantastic. So let me get into it. We had 3 houses burned to the ground when I was just, a kid and a teenager. First one happened on Christmas Eve, 1969. Our house burned to the ground with all our Christmas presents and everything. We lost everything. A couple years later, I started to get into trouble, became a juvenile delinquent, had a lot of problems with the law. There's reasons for all this stuff. But I got sent to a boys' work farm. I ran away from there after they let me out for vacation. I ran away, and they put me in a group home, another work farm, and then a second house burnt to the ground. I grew up in northern Minnesota, you guys, and it's like 4 months of winter, 3 feet of snow, really, really cold. So the second house burnt to the ground, and I was inside of it. We lost everything because there was 2 feet of snow on the ground. The fire trucks couldn't get there, right? And I mean, I got the proof here. I don't know if you can look close here, but I've got 4-inch scars on my wrist here, and I punched out a window out of a burning house, jumped through it into the snowbank, went back inside, saved my little brother and sister. House burnt totally to the ground, lost everything, family scattered. I mean, and no big deal, right? But a couple years later, another one burnt down. My dad had a cabin. Their parents were divorced, of course, but my dad had this cabin, and it burnt to the ground and killed 2 family members. Okay, so here I am, this young guy, grew up kind of in poverty. It wasn't easy, and so not about me as much as, hey, whatever kind of adversity you have in your life, there's some reason for it, but it doesn't mean you can't reach your highest potential. And now that you have wealth, it's time to tap into a deeper perspective for yourself and take a different kind of action to overcome your own mediocrity, whatever that is, and tap into your heart and express yourself. And so 3 houses burnt down. Then I had a near-death accident, a motorcycle accident. Came over a little hill, crashed into the back of a car, shattered my right leg and my femur, and I was literally dead, you guys. And my heart stopped. I wasn't breathing. Paramedics saved me at the last possible second. Somehow they got it to a hospital 50 miles away, and then I was in a coma for 3 days. And a coma it's like being inside the mind of God. Okay, so I've been literally inside the mind of God, and then I've been doing this ever since I've been alive now. So after I got out of the hospital, I thought, well, wow, now what? But less than a year later, some kind of spiritual stuff started happening. I started sleeping under pyramids, and I was practicing moving energy with my mind. And some people say, oh, that's crap, but it's not. Energy and consciousness are synonymous, and your mind has a power, and it has a spiritual basis behind that mind. Okay, so I got into college, started giving. Even my speeches were about consciousness and spiritual stuff. Anyway, I started having a lot of really profound mystical experiences, and heavy duty stuff with oneness with Earth and the universe, and mind blowing spiritual stuff. Probably because I had already had these several days of unconscious coma, being inside the mind of God. Who can say, how that affects a person, right? Unless you're in there. It's pretty astounding.
Totally.
Yeah. And so I really explored all the spiritual, mystical stuff and religions and consciousness and, all this stuff. And so then, I managed to get a university degree, but instead, like the average person, you might get out of college and think, hey, I'm going to go out and make some money. I did the exact opposite. Sold everything I owned, bought a ticket to India, got a cholera shot, and left. I had no idea what was going to happen, but I had this trust and faith in the spiritual power. The universe is going to guide me properly. And, we need to kind of do that when we get this wealth too. We can't just let ego dominate. It's important to, have the higher perspective that you're one with all of humanity here, and, do your best, So, I went to India. And am I rattling too much, you guys? I'm not sure.
No. Yeah, I think we're all curious to hear the story. And, obviously at the end of the day, it's what's benefiting Hexicans, right? And you're just telling your story and kind of some of the trials and tribulations that got you to your journey in the first place, right? And what people can, Anna-Marie Vachon is saying, great content. This resonates with me. Once again, not most people haven't had very easy upbringings and things like this, but a lot of us that are here, we're going to experience mass amounts of wealth if we haven't already. And once again, I think your story and some of the studies that you've done, feel free to go into it a little bit more. Before I do, I guess there's some comments. The chat room itself is a little bit more quiet because I think it is such a serious, topic, and it is more things that we should be looking into. Finbear says, go ahead. There's light at the end of the tunnel. Totally agree. Yeah, never give up hope. All Working Hex 67 says, not at all. Love hearing this seriously. And then Marianne says, listening keenly here. Please continue the journey to enlightenment.
Yeah, that's kind of what it is. I do want to give a shout out to Finbear, though, because I see him in the chats all the time. Very supportive. So that's cool. Yeah, so I landed in India, okay? Bought a ticket, went to India, young guy, just out of college. What the hell do I know about the world? It's like, wow, it's like being on a different planet. So I just headed into it, trusting the spiritual power would guide me, actually. Ended up way in northern India, and found myself living on this little island on a lake surrounded by the Himalayan mountains, okay? And so I started doing heart chakra meditations, heart opening meditations using a Sanskrit mantra, and don't want to get into all that, but you can imagine if you put your attention on opening your heart and your mind for 4 hours a day, there's going to be a result. So after a while doing this heart opening meditation, I came to the point where I loved everything. I mean, I looked at a stick at the ground. I loved that stick. I looked at this young servant boy there. I loved that guy. I just loved everything. I mean, it was literally one of these mind expanding experiences. I've had, countless of them in all kind of different, ways and stuff. But I'm sharing this one because, one, Richard Hart. Two, a lot of talk in the community lately about opening our hearts and being giving and all this stuff. And I just want to say, yeah, that's really true. And I've been there. I've been really on the inside of it. And I would say that when we give to each other, when we give to somebody else, we're actually giving to ourselves. There's no separation here. We're not separate. Okay. So, I learned some of these things, and then I trekked up in the Himalayas between Pakistan and India, where they're fighting right now, killing each other with weapons and shit. It's ridiculous. But yeah, then so I trekked the Himalayas. Then I went to a little different area in the foothills where the Himalayan masters live, consciousness masters. And I met a couple of these people. I did meditation in caves, literally. Just that kind of stuff really impacts you, And so at that point in the foothills of the Himalayas, one day after I met this consciousness master, the next day I was walking along this little road next to the Ganges River as it comes out of the mountains. It's the most spiritual river in the world. Hundreds of millions, if not billions of people revere this river. So I'm walking along this river, and there's these monkeys jumping through the trees, and it's just me in the wilderness and the monkeys. It's like in the Himalayan mountains. And you're just like, wow. And all of a sudden, cool. This thing infused into my mind. All there is to love. All there is. And it's like a booming voice in your head, if you can imagine. All there is to love. All there is. So, I started to get the idea that, hey, we're all one. We got to help each other and do the best we can. And, of course, now that we're Hexicans and Pulsicans, it would be, we could be the front runners of a new thing, because I believe that Hex and Pulse are so fantastic. We will really have some spiritual power to do the things that are going to fulfill us, as well as give to other people. And again, like when we give to other people, we're giving to ourselves. Okay. So just wanted to kind of make that point. And that's the reason why I talk this way and why I do this kind of stuff, So yeah, I've had some amazing amounts of mystical events happen to me. And in fact, this whole book is 300 pages, 80,000 words of content about, being one and connected with everything. Okay. That's kind of the basis. So, so Bran and I, again, we have put together this thing for you guys. It's called The Rules of Manifesting, How to Get What Your Heart Really Wants. I encourage you to download it, play with it. It might help you. Okay. And so just kind of I want to repeat that a few times during the stream so you guys get it, that, hey, there's something here you can download, thanks to Bran. Thank you, Bran. And, you know, it might help you guys, you know? So that's it. And, yeah, I've done, what else have I done? I created a website called Mind, Body, Spirit Mastery. It's all about, you know, high level spiritual stuff and how to use the mind and how the spirit comes into the mind through the conscious and unconscious mind that we have, and through the brain, and then we manifest stuff. And so, yeah, I came up with this concept called the way of the spiritual millionaire. I just love that, the way of the spiritual millionaire. So you guys are on that track too. You're spiritual millionaires, you know, if you like it or not. It's probably coming, you know. So, you know, I created the Venus Love Factor. You know, you think about the research psychologists have done, and people around the world, and they put out questionnaires now and then, and they say, oh, what does humanity value? What do people really value the most? And money is not the first one. Generally, love is the first thing that is top of mind as the highest value of humanity. Okay, so we gotta keep it straight. The money is a secondary thing. It's the vehicle that allows you to manifest your love and the spiritual experiences of being able to travel around the world and give to people and create cool stuff and, you know, fund animal shelters and, you know, do whatever you want to do. That's what this is about. Okay. Sure. And so I created Venus Love Factor, which is a website that helps people learn where your best living locations are, because some locations are really, really good for you, and other locations are not so good for you. Like, for example, I'm on the West Coast right now, me and Bran, and if we go over to New York, there's going to be a different aspect of our consciousness. Our human psyche is going to manifest there. Okay. If I go to India, or if I live in Japan, or I'm in Australia, or I'm in Jamaica, a different aspect of my psyche will manifest there. Okay. This is stuff that's kind of beyond average, but when you become a multimillionaire, you're going to have the urge to travel and do different things. So I created these websites to help guide people as to where their best living locations are. So that's something I've done. And I got this other thing. These are just my own little unique things that I'm sharing with you guys, because you got your own unique things. But I created the Spiritual Carpenter's Toolbox. So there's a lot of spiritual, you know, because we're actually spiritual beings in this little body having these experiences, you know. So I created the Spiritual Carpenter's Toolbox, and as a result, you know, we've got the rules of manifesting here. But there's, you know, there's more to it, and maybe we'll get into that a little later. So I'll stop for a second here. Bran, what do you think?
Well, no, I mean, I definitely agree with the sentiment. I mean, Richard, his last name is actually Schuler, right? It's not Hart.
Yeah.
But he specifically chose that, you know, that moniker, that last name, because he had known, like, hey, you know, he is a good person. He does want to give back. And I think at the end of the day, money is really just like a means to an end. And Richard talks about this a lot too. And same thing with RG3. But when you have, say, more of wealth and things like that, more money, it kind of just exposes more of who you are, you know? So if you're a good person, giving, philanthropic, stuff like this, it kind of helps you facilitate those. And then same thing with the opposite. I agree that when you mentioned that, and Crypto Heartbeat actually talks about this too. He's in the chat, and I want to say shout out to him.
Hey, Matt.
I had a really good interview with him. I like his style a lot.
Yeah.
And that guy's very philanthropic too, right? He had done a video today on you know, how he's been working in the nonprofit sector for like over 20 years and things like this. But there really are a lot of hexagons in the space now, or that have been in for a while, or, you know, maybe even in the future too, that think along the similar lines. I mean, people like Freddie Quotes, he's got this kind of like this charity type of thing that they do called like hoodies for the homeless. And you'd mentioned like the animal shelters and things like this. And people like, you know, Ken and RG3 with Discourse Syndicate are getting into some of the, you know, maybe a PAC or political things. And it's just interesting to see the community itself of, you know, like-minded people kind of working towards something that that's a lot bigger that I think can have a more big impact. So you mentioned just giving back, and that's kind of what this is, all the time that people like yourself spend, on people's channels, or all of us giving. We've all got our own things that we can offer.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned Ken and RG3 and some of the stuff that these Hexicans are doing. Gary funding Jim, because wealth is going to be a big deal. Having this money, and I know just of course syndicate guys and Gary, they're providing us, they're building us some structures so that we're going to be able to keep our wealth instead of having it ripped off by these criminals in the government, in my opinion. So there's a lot of things we have to pay attention to, and just keep our heart and the mind in the right place. Like Crypto Heartbeat Matt, he really puts it out there well, and hopefully we can all continue to do this in our own little way, and make the best out of this fantastic adventure we're on. And it is an adventure. It's not all super serious. I mean, let's have some fun. Let's enjoy this ride. It's going to be fantastic. But in the meantime, hey, have a balance. Use your heart. Use your mind. Put them together. Create stuff. Because we're manifestors. We're creators. So let me put that in a different way. A lot of you folks probably heard of law of attraction. You think these things and you're going to attract stuff. Well, I've been inside the mind of God, and God does not attract itself. It manifests itself. Okay. It manifests the entire universe. So this is just my view, whatever it's worth to you guys. The inner source of all being comes directly to you, as you, resonates through you, and then acts back upon itself as your own experience. And this is all like a oneness thing. The universe manifests, the inner source manifests everything in our world. So we're in that flow. We have power. We have so much more power that we don't get it because we're conditioned. That's why I try to encourage people, talking to myself, transcend your own mediocrity, and make the best of your potential. And now you got the money to do it. So we all have to step up a little bit and use our mind and our heart and be giving and create our projects and do the right thing and support the community. And I think the idea of asset protection, we got to pay more attention to, because a lot of you young guys don't have a clue what's coming, and I've had money and I've not had money. And there's some things out there. So let me tell you a quick little story. This is kind of along the lines of some of the things I wanted to say. 2014, I decided, okay, look, I want to be a millionaire. So every morning, get up at 4:00 something, and I would meditate and visualize, okay, and I would literally see $1 million dropping out of the blue into my lap, because in our culture, we have this idea, well, things can come out of the blue. So I use that because that's tapping into the collective human consciousness that we have, okay? So I visualized every morning for like 4 months, and boom, I manifested $74,915.17 right into my bank account, tax-free, out of the blue. There it was, blew me away. Okay. I've done little things, but I intentionally tried to manifest a lot. And but in the end, it was mind blowing. But in 2 years, I spent that money, and then I had to go back to work, So I'm just telling you guys this in advance, that the money is coming, but you have to. That's why, again, Brandon and I put out the thing on manifesting what your heart wants, because you're going to need to be able to handle this wealth when it comes. Okay. Because otherwise your unconscious mind will just burn it, or you'll lose it, or you'll crash and burn. You won't even be conscious of it. Your unconscious mind will manifest that. If your subconscious mind has a lot of stuff that isn't aligned with you being wealthy and aligned with you being able to handle it. Okay. And this is powerful stuff, because we do have a subconscious mind, and it's a lot of it runs the show. And I know that because I'm an expert handwriting analyst. I have certificates in basic and advanced handwriting analysis, graphology. So your mind, when you write, that's your mind writing. Okay. So I can see right inside people's mind in like 30 seconds or less. So your unconscious mind does have these patterns. Okay. And so, that's the reason why, again, Brandon and I, put out this little document, how to manifest what your heart wants, because you got to get inside yourself and get aligned with where you really want to be. And I can tell you, you don't get what you want. You get who you are. You get what you are. So, just thinking, I want this with my mind, but there's a lot of other stuff going on. So you want to, do your contemplation and figure out, okay, what does my heart want? How am I going to contribute? How am I going to use this money without effing it up and causing trouble?
Yeah.
Because people,
Yeah.
this happens. Mike Tyson, a professional boxer, made $400 million, and he blew it all and went bankrupt. I mean, that's an example. So I think it's important to look at.
Well, it's true, and it goes to, like, part of why I wanted to do this in the first place was that it is very relevant to new, old, and Hexicans that haven't even been here yet. But just that sudden wealth syndrome thing is very true. And you mentioned that, like, if you're kind of lost and you kind of don't know what you're doing and things like that, it can be really easy to get into drug addictions, or you mentioned spending, not frivolously, but spending, without intention. Like, you can really spend that, you mentioned with Mike Tyson, like that 400 million very quickly. And we see that with sports players, right? The sudden wealth syndrome that happens to them. And so with things like Hex, the cool thing about it is it's perpetual, right? If you have a stake, then for that stake length, you're obviously earning yield every single day. But yeah, then what do you do with it once you do realize some of those gains? Things like that.
Yeah, I came to mind a cool little story. I just kind of made it up, but it came from somewhere, from somebody else. But let's say suddenly you got $1 million and you think, I'm going to travel. This is how the mind thinks. I'm going to travel. So you go to the airport and there's, somebody behind the counter, hello, sir, where would you like to go? And you say, well, I want to travel. I'm thinking Paris. I've heard Paris is really good, And then she says, okay, Paris. You say, wait, I don't know, maybe Italy, Milan and Venice, Rome. Oh my God, maybe Italy. But, I really don't know, And then she says, well, this is another person giving you influence in your mind now. She'll say, well, the airlines, there's a couple of airlines, they've got 50% off flight tickets to South Africa. It's got nice beaches in South Africa. So you say, yeah, okay, yeah, sure. So you don't know where you're going. So you end up going to South Africa. And when you get there, you find out there's an apartheid war, and the black people are killing the white people and taking the land back because the white people dominate, and you're suddenly in a place you had no intention of being, and maybe it ain't so pleasant. It didn't turn out the way you thought because you didn't have a direction in the first place, So again, it's important to clarify in your mind and your feelings, in your heart, where am I going? What am I doing? And allow that higher fulfillment and satisfaction to emerge. You don't even know what it is, maybe. You don't know what your highest destiny is. But if you put your mind there, that's what will start to manifest. If you just put your mind on having money and spending it and this and that, well, you're not going to get the highest fulfillment and destiny. You're just your mind's going to produce this little stuff about how you're spending your money. So, these kind of, it's a spiritual event and a heart-centered event of our life. And, I could go on and on, but,
well, let me ask you something. So, because you talk about manifesting and stuff like this, which is great, but because there's also Mystic Pimp that he had talked about. Because same thing, like in 2017, 2018, I was writing down goals that I had wanted, and they've come to fruition, at least most of them. But how did you said that you had manifested somehow finding Hex? I know Mystic Pimp did as well, but can you maybe tell us that part of the story as well? Because I thought that was pretty interesting when we talked about it.
It was like a year and a half ago. I'm an older guy, I figured, look, I want to have my higher destiny. So I started to put all my attention every morning, because I've been meditating for 40 years, like an hour to 2 hours a day, every day, pretty much. I miss a few days, but so I put my attention on my highest destiny and my greatest fulfillment. And I just focused on that. And And I thought, okay, well, I can make money through the internet. That's the thing to do. So I built a couple websites, and unfortunately, the business relationships crashed and burned, let's say. But I still had this intent because I started meditating. Okay, again, I'm gonna become a millionaire. So I started working on manifesting that again because I had done it 5 years ago. I know it. I know it's doable, not a problem. You can do it if wherever you put your attention, that's where your energy is going to go, right? So I started doing that, and just I was looking online one day, and here up pops this little thing on my computer screen, Richard Hart and these ladies of Australia. It's like a 5-hour live stream. I had no clue, man. I didn't, had no idea. Didn't know anything about Richard. And I get on there, and here's this guy, and he's swearing, and he's talking about sex, and but what he said was, it's a free money airdrop, the biggest airdrop in history. And I thought, man, I don't know what that is, but I like it. Free money. I want some of that stuff, So I watched a little bit of it, and I emailed a friend. I said, hey, John, my buddy John, help me understand this. I don't quite get it all, because Hex and Richard, and there's a lot. And, and this PulseChain and an airdrop. What is all this stuff, And I didn't have any idea. But I put my mind to it. And in about a month, I figured it out. And I had managed to buy some Bitcoin and had some Ethereum. And man, inside a month, I just said, I just sold that stuff immediately and bought Hex and started staking it. Because I learned from Richard. Here's this Richard guy. And I admire intelligent people. So I listened to him and started listening to you guys, the streamers, and I started to learn, that we all have to learn. And figured it out pretty quick that buying Hex and staking it is where it's at. So it took me a couple months and managed to get, now I have 11 stakes over 10 years. I'm an older guy, so I haven't done the 15-year thing because, I might not even make it that long. Who knows, right? But I figure with the value appreciation of Hex and now Pulse, maybe for me, an older guy, maybe I don't need the 15-year out stake because a lot of this money is going to come to fruition in advance, Right. So, it's all up to you guys, do it. But I got a stake pretty much every single year coming out. And so that's a little bit about my Richard story. And I'm thrilled to death to have found Richard and you, Bran, and the community. It's amazing. So I don't know if I covered that well enough or not, but. Well,
no, you did. Because I've forgotten, because I know we've talked on the phone a few times, but I remember now, the Australian stream. And it's interesting that you mentioned that because same thing with, I think, with Crypto Heartbeat and a lot of other people where like Richard's very interesting, right? You hear a little bit about him and whether it's ego or whether it's so much other stuff, you're like, okay, this is interesting. And then the more that you kind of listen to it, it's like, it's captivating because the guy really knows his stuff. But that's cool that was the one that kind of was like the hook, that kind of reeled you in because who doesn't want to hear about how they can get free money and the largest airdrop in history. A lot of people already know, as you mentioned, that where there might have been skepticism in the late 90s and stuff like this. Now it's like, no, this is here to stay. And same thing with crypto, right? It's been around for over 10 years. But I think what you mentioned with the staking and kind of the laddering and everyone's got their own timelines, I think that is very important because especially, for people like my dad's age, I think his longest stake is maybe like 10 years that I've set up for him. But the cool thing is everyone gets to choose whether they want to or not. You don't have to be earning the trustless yield, but if you do, you can choose whatever timeline you want. So that's cool that you set up a ladder. I think it's important to not only to delay the gratification, but to also reward yourself too.
Yeah, it's delaying gratification is the that's the buzzwords around our community, and so true. But for those of you who haven't went all in yet, I'd like to encourage you to, like me, when I started, I didn't have a clue what I was doing really, but I just learned about staking and I somehow intuitively perceived how incredible Hex really is. So I just jumped in. I put everything I had. Then in the end, this is not financial advice. No one will tell you to do this. In fact, it'll discourage you. But I borrowed several $1,000s so I could sacrifice on day one for the PulseChain, because I'm aware enough to realize, oh my God, Pulse, day one. Yes. Don't think about it.
Yeah.
Just do it. Just do it,
Yeah.
because the stuff is going to be life-changing. Gotta love it.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that, because a lot of us that have been there, I mean, day 33 for Hex was absolutely amazing. I think the price of Ethereum was around like $80 at that time, or maybe it was a little bit higher, maybe like 90. But the point is you could get 1.8 million Hex. That's before the self-referral, the 32% bonus. But you could get 1.8 million Hex for, I don't know, the cost of like $100 total. And now that's just worth way significantly more. But I said that to say that, yeah, a lot of us, there's like that saying that like hindsight's 20/20. And I think that it's pretty cool that sometimes we take risks today or sacrifices today for a better and brighter future. It doesn't just, nothing just falls on your lap like that. You've got to put work into it as well.
Yeah. And again, Pulse, I just think Pulse is going to be a mind blower, and Richard, the guy is so smart. And, the little points about Pulse that I've noticed from whatever my little viewpoint is that giving everybody some Pulse that's on the Ethereum blockchain is just mind-blowingly brilliant, because every one of those people, when they find out, hey, I got them Pulse, what is this? They are going to have to buy Pulse in order to start to transact. So, in my opinion, the stuff's going to skyrocket, because everybody, you can't transact unless you have Pulse. So you got to buy Pulse, and I just think it's really quite the wonderful opportunity. And there's a few other things about the Pulse and how Richard has designed it and set it up. All the projects that are already over there on Ethereum are going to suddenly be on Pulse. Wow, fantastic. So the design of Hex and Pulse and the financial acumen of Richard and how he has this set up, and got to give a shout out to his developers, Firebun, Kyle Dev, Steph, all these guys, all the behind the scenes, all you Hexicans behind the scenes. Amazing, just amazing. So, we couldn't be in a better place in life, you guys.
Well, it's actually a very good point that you bring up, and yeah, probably often overlooked. I mean, as I think about it right now, but yeah, there's a lot of obviously people like Richard, but there's a lot of Hexicans that are front and center. But then there's also a lot of Hexicans, as you say, that are behind the scenes, or developers that are working on PulseChain or building bridges, like literal bridges, right, from Ethereum to Pulse. But a lot of that sometimes might go overlooked too, because it's kind of in the background. But in reality, it is the glue that makes the system work in general.
Yeah, it's an extraordinary opportunity. So I just encourage all of us to keep participating, keep sharing, support the folks who are really pushing the issue and out there working for us, developing stuff like you said, Brand. They're building bridges, and they're building front ends for all these different kind of computer transactions we got to do to make all this work. Hopefully we'll get to the day where we don't have to go through. Like I have discussed for some of these exchanges, and I didn't know anything when I got in, so I finally figured out there's this stuff called Coinbase. You got to get a Coinbase account, then you got to get a Coinbase Pro account, then you got to buy Ethereum, then you got to learn how to transfer it and I had to do all that stuff by myself, and the whole idea of the on ramp and off ramp of fiat is something that I hope these brilliantly smart developers can come up with ways so we can get our money on and off without too much struggle, because it's challenging for folks these days,
Well, it's true. And that's one of the things that Pulse is going to help out with, right? That there's a lot of people. Someone even just mentioned it the other day. I forget who. some video that I was just watching, but the person wanted to buy like $100 worth of crypto, and they're like, you can't, like as far as Hex goes, just because the crypto that they had wanted to buy was an ERC20 token and on Ethereum, and it's interesting to see how much people are coming around to cryptocurrency, but then now the congestion of the network itself has just gotten to such a tipping point that, yeah, I mean, yesterday I was doing my stream. The average transfer fee was at the time was like $50. And it's like, well, that doesn't seem very revolutionary if it costs that much just to do a little send. And then especially when you think that that money is going to the proof of waste, right? It's going to the miners that then sell that Ethereum that you're paying them for electricity bills. So someone like Richard definitely had the the foresight in the thought to realize, hey, this is a major problem that's not only affecting the Hexicans, but everyone else in cryptocurrency too. So what a win-win situation he created and is creating with PulseChain.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. Speaking of the gas fees, that did bug me. So what I would do, what I would do is I'd get up at 2-3 in the morning on a Sunday and to do my staking and my transactions, because the gas fees were a lot cheaper. But I feel the pain for folks who want to invest $100 and they basically can't. I was trying to help a guy online the other day, and he said, God, Glenn, I bought in at $700. Now I only got 500 and I want to stake, but I can't. And, your heart goes out to these kind of people. And the cool thing about Pulse, eventually it will be worldwide. And I'd just like to share another little opinion, because I have been around the world a little bit. So this is just a little side note, you guys, but it's kind of interesting. In Nigeria, they didn't have telephones. Like when I grew up, we had telephone lines and you had to dial the thing, and we got all these telephone lines around all over the country. A lot of places around the world don't have any telephone lines. So they just went right from zero to cell phones, and they're transacting money with their cell phones in Kenya and, different places around the world. So we are entering a whole new financial system. And I feel pretty confident that the level of intelligence in the Pulse and Hex community is going to do great things. And it's going to kind of be up to us in some ways, because we're the forerunners. Most of the people that have invested in Pulse, we're Hexicans, So our perspective is different than just the average person out there who's going to hear about Hex next year, So we have a little bit of responsibility to get our minds clear and figure out, and participate and share and create a direction that's really going to be beneficial for the space, but not just for us, but for humanity, actually. Hundreds of millions of people. I've lived in third world countries. You can't drink the water, you can't even believe what's out there if you're from America and you haven't, So, yeah.
Well, it's true. A lot of, speaking as an American that's only been to like Mexico as the other country, but a lot of Americans almost have and I can once again speak for myself, but generally kind of have like the perception that like America is like the only country that exists. And it's like, no, there's a whole world out there. Renobe says, I think Pulse will do that like the mobile phone did. So similar to the example that you're talking about. It's true. If you're going to have like be your own bank and like, people talk about this mass adoption. Bitcoin has had the same problem that Ethereum did, right? Or Ethereum does, both of them do, with the high fees. And if you do truly want something to be global, right? Richard talks about Hex wanting to be, or designed to be like the global reserve currency, things like this, then yeah, you need to make it practical for everyone. And especially if it's just a system layer that's just a transfer or just a stake or end stake, it should really not be that expensive to run that function, which it is currently. So I agree with what Renobe has said here about the infrastructure layer of the Pulse chain. It's just going to allow for more of that adoption.
Yeah, Pulse is amazing. And, I get irritated by you've heard, the miners and, the proof of work, and they're greedy buggers, in my opinion, That's just my own little view but here's the thing that a lot of folks who are new to the space, let's say, might not understand. Ethereum it's a big deal. It's one of the big dogs in crypto, but they keep complaining, or not complaining. They keep saying, yeah, we're going to come out with this new solution to lower the fees and stuff. But it's been a couple years, and it's still going to be a couple of more years. And there's two reasons for that. One, the miners, they don't want to give away their money. They like that stuff. And the other thing is that they would have to shut down correct me if I'm wrong, Brand, you know better than me, but this is my own little assumption that, hey, they'd have to shut down Ethereum to do all that computer work to fix it, so they could have this different kind of solution to lower the fees. But they're not going to be able to do that. I don't think so, because they got millions of, thousands of computers all over the world. They can't shut them down all at once and then fix the code and put it back in. So they're just chipping away a little by little, hoping that they can get there. But Pulse is totally going to beat them to the punch, like hopefully in a couple of months here, So we're in the right place, guys.
Well, all Hex working 67, they say something that I kind of want to agree with as well, which is Richard calls the miners a protection racket. And it's true, right? They've got a vested interest in all of that hardware, the proof of work system itself. I mean, if they just initially do that proof of work change from physical proof of work to digital proof of stake, then all of a sudden, yeah, you're pretty much going to render those ASIC miners and those things that were mining Ethereum, pretty much going to render them useless. And so, yeah, there is kind of not much incentive. They even have the actual change itself written down in code, but they just have never implemented it. Finbear mentions that they've been planning the Ethereum 2.0, which is that proof of work change to proof of stake, since 2016. And then he says, we will crush their system of enslavement. And I definitely agree with that as well. I mean, I don't really get into, I try to keep it just Hex and Pulse centric, and that's what this stream is obviously about too. But it's so crazy that one founder and one product, obviously with the community using it, but the way that it can just, really affect and change a lot of the current systems that we have currently. I mean, you look at the traditional banking system and all of the middlemen that exist within, say, someone sending money from the United States to, say, Venezuela or other countries. So things like that are just really profound with what crypto is doing.
Yeah, and thank you to Finbear for that comment about crushing their system of enslavement. It's strong words, Finbear, but the way I look at it, and because I've studied this stuff, the Federal Reserve banking system, it's got nothing to do with federal. It's a private corporation run by the global elite, and they created the Federal Reserve Banking Act of 1913 at midnight on Jekyll Island and blah blah blah. So we have been manipulated as long as we've been alive, and that just, and the other thing too is every fiat system fails. It's just a matter of time. And so they're, in my mind, the devious people behind the banking system and all that stuff, they've come to realize, look, there's a financial transition going on here. They're not printing money out of the blue for nothing, and they're not trying to take over and do all this stuff for nothing. So we have to, that's why I choose to support guys like Kinetics and Gary Funding Jim, because they're working on ways to help us protect our money. And part of that too, for some of us, we may choose to live in other countries where we're literally treated better, and we're not getting ripped off 50% of the wealth that we have, because we can use that 50% wealth in a lot better ways than just giving it to the government with taxes. So that's another aspect of the enslavement system that's been going on for centuries, you guys, on this little planet, So hopefully Pulse and Hex and us as a community with our intelligence and insight and experience, maybe we can, make some inroads to cause some beneficial changes. And if it doesn't work, hey, go to Colombia, go live in Portugal, do what you got to do, and don't be afraid to do that if it comes down to it, So got a little rant on the enslavement thing there, Finbear,
totally. Well, no, I mean it's absolutely correct. I mean, and same thing with the network itself. I mean, what good is the technology if you're not using it? Even if that's like the technology that can kind of help you or solve a lot of the problems. Richard's mentioned in his book called Fix the World, and I say this reference a lot because I think it's very important, but is, if you want to fix a lot of the world's problems and the problems that people are having, you do need to fix the money first. And you mentioned the dollar and fiat currencies and inflation. How's it going, see crypto? The point is I was reading an article the other day that the actual like consumer inflation and just the cost itself that we're now paying, it's at like a record high since like I think 1990, something like that. And just the way that the world's going with everything else that's going on top of the inflation, it's just almost like a compounding effect where the people that are enslaved by the system, it's almost impossible for them to get out of it if you follow like the traditional path and the traditional route. That's why it's like, man, people need to do stuff that's like not traditional, or systems that are just completely different, which is what crypto is, and Hex and PulseChain. Those are kind of the opportunities that the early Bitcoiners saw with the cypherpunk movement.
Yeah, there's a lot to unwrap there. If you think about it, at the very top of the global elite is a small handful of families that have come down through centuries. They own everything, vast amounts of wealth. They own, then you got BlackRock, which is a giant corporation. Most people don't even know about it. It owns a percentage of almost every corporation on the planet. So the whole banking system is owned and controlled and manipulated. They own the media. They literally, program us into mediocrity. So those of us who are going to have wealth and we got a heart, hey, it's time for us to step up, step out of our own mediocrity, use our head, use our heart, use our mind, and figure this out, and I think we got an amazing community of people, and I see it happening. I hope it does, whatever that's worth.
I mean, it's happening one day at a time, and it's almost been 2 years of Hex being launched, and a lot of people went from, just a few $100s now, a few million, and things like this that kind of give us the hope in the resources to counterbalance some of the stuff that's going on. So if there's any like pivotal moment in history and time in history, I think now is the time to be kind of not only studying the things that we talk about, but also, saving today for a brighter tomorrow. And that's kind of what the staking is doing, and the proof of weight, as Richard talks about. So,
yeah, I just had a little thought here. About 5 years ago, this is in relation to money and the value of money and how we deal with money and how we think and feel about money. And so I was doing like an online conference call with a woman. She was a social media manager, and she was talking to me because I was analyzing her handwriting or something. And she was saying, well, God, I want to make 15,000 a month, or, whatever it was. And she just was pushing on this. So finally I said, well, what are you going to do with the money? And she goes, well, I want to spend more time with my family and my husband. And, I'd like to get a bunch of money so I can leave Hawaii and get back to San Diego. And I said, well, so in the end, I'll make it short. In the end, what we want is not the money. It's not the $1 million. It's the value of what is going to create fulfillment and satisfaction in our personal lives. So that's the place to put your attention. The money's going to be there. Okay. So just a little nuance because it really does matter where we put our attention. Because when, we have a mind, and inside of our mind, we have all these different aspects, and we need to get those aligned. And sorry for rambling here, but I got something else kind of interesting to say. I created this thing called the 8 human qualities. So if you figure the God force comes directly to us, as us, resonates through us, and then acts back upon itself as our own experience, well, how does that work? Well, as humans, with our brain, right, we have these, I've identified these 8 human qualities: thought, feeling, belief, desire, value, attitude, intention, and expectations. Okay, let me repeat them again because it goes by a little fast. These are the manifesting tools that we use to, naturally, it just resonates out of us and produces our experience. Okay, the 8 human qualities: thought, feeling, belief, values, desires, attitudes, intentions, and expectations. So, and these are synergistic. They all work together, and we're constantly evolving and growing, and we get different input, and we take action, and we fail, we succeed. So the mind is this ongoing evolutionary thing. And so again, I would encourage people to download this, The Rules of Manifesting, How to Manifest Your Heart Wants. And there's some, I think there may be some guidance in there about how to get a grip on your thinking, what you're feeling. Your belief patterns are crucially important. Your desires, they come and go. Your values, what do you value? Do you value being a millionaire, or just being some hotshot kid who owns a Lamborghini? What are you going to do? So then it's your attitude. Your attitude affects the outcome of your experience. So if you think about the quantum field, your mind impacts the quantum field and manifests events and probabilities. So you can have an attitude to manifest the higher side of the probability rather than the negative side of the probability. So the mind has this influence. So it's important that we get a grip on this stuff. And then your intentions, intent is very important. And then your expectations, one of the most subtly powerful of all. Inside your mind, in your feelings, we have subtle expectations. We don't think we're good enough. So you might have some brilliant idea, or think you're hot stuff because you're rich and this and that, whatever it is. Your inner expectations are going to dictate what you're able to receive for yourself. So again, thought, feeling, belief, desire, value, attitude, intention, and expectation. The manifesting qualities that we all use, So these are the kind of things that we need to, try to get more of a grip on. And I would say do it before the multi-millions of dollars hit us, And I'm hoping to become a multi-millionaire. That's what I want. I started out with, a millionaire, and then I realized, oh my God, are you kidding? Hex and Pulse, we're talking multi-millionaire. And again, I'm so psyched. I got to tell you, I couldn't be any happier, because I got in late. I didn't know anything about Hex until 6 months ago, literally. And so I sacrificed on day one of the Pulse thing, and I watched guys like you, Bran, OGs you're called, all you guys, RG and, blah, blah, blah. And I'm thinking, wow, these guys are so amazing. But the cool thing is that, little me, I'm going to be an OG in Pulse. And a lot of you guys are too. They're watching the stream. And, that's glorious. It's fantastic, So again, we got to get ourselves aligned inwardly, because like Richard says, you change the world. Yeah. But then you got to change the financial system. Yeah. But you got to get your own internal life in order too, so your subconscious mind doesn't F it up, So anyway, I get carried away because I'm, kind of passionate about this stuff. But
Oh no, of course, dude. I'm actually looking at the chat right now, and everyone's liking it a lot. Dimitri says that's how it works. He's not wrong. Let's see who else. Just a lot of people that are kind of resonating with the information as well. Silly Psychonaut, shout out to you, but it's true. And the thing that I would encourage a lot of people is if you whether you have it right now or whether you don't have it, maybe get into a little bit of like writing, or like some sort of goals of like what you do want, whether that's that you have the wealth or not right now. Those things are kind of important to focus on, because as you talk about, once it happens, you don't want to be caught off guard. And the more that you can kind of prepare, the more that you'll be, more successful and less caught off guard.
Yeah, you want to get aligned with yourself. Get comfortable in your body. It's really, your body is your spiritual vehicle. You got to take care of this little thing here, and do whatever works for you. But it's important to be healthy. Got to keep that front and center, because I've been in a hospital, and I grew up riding motorcycles, so I've broken a lot of bones, and you don't know what you're missing until it's gone. One day you're hot stuff, and then something gets taken away from you, and you go, oh my God, I didn't appreciate what I had until it's gone. So
you. Yeah.
Part of our lesson, learn how to be grateful and appreciative. Being appreciative, it's easy to do, but we have to dwell on it a little more, I think, than we normally do. Our lives are busy and we got stuff to do and blah blah blah, but just appreciating. And I learned something from a guy here. This guy built a software company, okay, sold it for millions of dollars, And he wrote some books about appreciating, how to appreciate money. When you spend money, you don't spend it and think there's any kind of loss. You spend it in appreciation. Oh my God, because the stuff just comes out of the blue from nowhere. It's an infinite reality. I mean, you look outside at the apple tree, there's more apples than you're ever going to eat. You know, I got one outside here. Half of them go to rot. There's so much abundance, it ain't funny. So, kind of lost my train of thought there about
the millionaire guy. Yeah.
Right. So he wrote a book about how to take your consciousness and get it, so that every time you spend money, you do it with appreciation and heartfelt appreciation, and with your mind, and that causes more money to come to you, you know, rather than spending it thinking, well, shit, now I got $50 less than I had yesterday. And you know, people do this to themselves. So, but anyway, the point of bringing that up was not that, but my point was, this guy sold his software company, made millions of dollars, right? Okay, so now he's a millionaire. Okay, now what, right? So he had all this money. So he did this thing. You know, you got to wonder, how much money do you need, right? How much money do we have to be in this little world? So this guy took his whole family and they went all around the world, lived in Italy, did you know, entire family, they lived well for an entire year all over the world. It only cost him $200,000. So how many trillions and millions does a guy need, you know? And how do you manage your wealth with what you really need? And how do you spend and share and live your life in a way that's going to be fulfilling and satisfying, and hopefully manifesting some of that higher destiny that may or may not be available for you? Okay, so it's not just all about the money. It's about getting yourself aligned with it and getting a better perspective, a spiritual perspective. How much money do you need? And I, you know, personally, about 30 years ago, I thought, man, I could live really well on 200,000 a year. And so, and that brings me to another point, which I think is fantastic, possibly, is liquid loans. Because we don't want to have to spend our Pulse and our Hex, but if we can use the liquid loans system, that could be just an amazing, brilliant breakthrough. So what do you think about that, Bran?
Well, yeah. So of course, yeah. I know we've talked about it a little bit, and you know, I plan on having Jess Pitt B sometime soon. It's crazy how many people want to come on and how busy the schedule can be. I think yeah. I mean, Hex itself is just a smart contract, so it's the same thing with liquid loans. It's just a fork of the liquidity, you know, protocol. But the only thing I'll say about it is, it's just like with Hex, right? With Hex, you can stake for 1 day. With liquid loans, I think you can do like 110% collateralization. But you know, if you're going to use it as a tool, then you don't want to be liquidated, right? So have that collateralization be a lot higher, and also I want to see it come out and come into fruition, you know, before using it and things like this. But I think that yeah, tools themselves can be used how they're intended to, and as you mentioned, they can give you more options and more possibilities. I mean, if you look at Elon Musk, he had recently sold like $1 billion worth of Tesla stock, and he had like a binary kind of question, like, hey, should I sell my Tesla stock or some other thing? And Richard said, well, he's like, well, why don't you just take a loan against your assets type of deal? And so that was kind of like the perfect pitch of what liquid loans is for, say, PulseChain.
Hey, shout out to Uncle Larry there. He says he likes my energy. I appreciate that, man. Thank you. Just trying to do my part here. But I've seen Uncle Larry in the you know, a lot of these guys. You see them in the chats and they're contributing, and it's really fun. It's just exciting and cool. And but Bran, you're the man. I mean, you're one of these guys out there forerunning the situation and helping cause this. So, you know, appreciate you.
Well, of course, man, and you too, Glenn. I mean, like I've said, and like we've talked about, this definitely isn't going to be, you know, the last stream. This will be kind of like an introductory to more streams in the future. And there's actually a lot of people, FinBear specifically, and another Hexican. Let me just scroll up here. He says, "This is so interesting. I'd like to call in or something. You know, can we do this kind of like once a month?" And same thing with Renaud says, phone call-ins would be really cool. I know Hexy Bastard, he had done a stream yesterday on like where you could call in via Telegram, and it was also being streamed. So that would be cool to, you know, have people other than just myself be able to ask you some of the questions on, or be able to not just be me and you, but also the chat other than just the comments where they could kind of contribute too. So I think that would be cool for me to set up the next time that we stream, maybe like a specific Telegram room that people can just join and call in and kind of have some of their questions answered as well.
Sounds like fun to me, and it could help people. It's like, so here we are. We have our space. What can we do to, let's say, make somebody happy? What can we do to make somebody strong? How can we contribute our unique little space to create something magnificent that the other person will really get, and then it will spread. And again, we're all connected. We're not separate. Even your own thoughts that you think are yours, they're coming and going. We have an unconscious, collective unconscious, and we got a subconscious mind, and the spirit comes through the mind, hits that. And here we are. We got the 8 human qualities: thoughts, feelings, beliefs, desires, values, attitudes, intentions, expectations. Well, now we have money. So we got to get ourselves aligned. And, again, we're not separate. So let's get together. And I'm kind of rambling here, but what's cool to me is that I know, Bran, I'm sure you'll agree that Richard has other things up his sleeve, obviously, good stuff. And the brilliant computer programmer guys, they're coming up with ideas. So once we get through this, in my mind, fake scamdemic, we transcend some of that.
Yeah, let's not go into that too much. I don't want to.
Right,
I don't want
right.
to cover politics stuff. That'll
Right,
just immediately divide half the audience. But
yeah,
as you were saying,
well, we just got a bright future, and we got to use our heart and our mind together. It's not just the mind; the heart has to be with it.
I agree. In a world that's constantly dividing, division is not the solution. I think the solution is kind of what's not being, advertised and things like this, and not coming from a state of fear, but the opposite, abundance and strength and stuff.
You bet. And
well, cool, man. I mean, we're like an hour and 23 minutes. I think this is a good. It's crazy how quick the time goes when you're having fun. I know. Yeah, the solution is not division. Yeah. So I know that we've got the article that you sent to me that's on just a Google document that people can look into, that manifesting, and then both of your websites, the Venus Love Factor and the Venus Love Zones, and then the best living locations for people that want to hear more. That document that you had sent was like a 16-page, and I think that for people that were interested, that's something that they could read more into for sure.
Yeah, just real quick on that, maybe help inspire people to one last push to go click the link and get the thing. It's all free. It's no big deal. But, there's a couple of little points here. It's got 2 parts. One part is how to use your mind. When there's a problem, well, you have to accept that there's also an absolute solution that's inherent, available. So if you get this money and you got a problem, well, hey, or along the way, even little things during your day, when there's a problem, there's also an inherent solution, and you need to accept that for it to come to you. Otherwise, you're blocking the solution, right? So you feel this desire, clarify your intent to get that solution, and it'll come to you. And then what you can do to take this on a little deeper level, with a clarity of mind, you can see, feel, and hear the desired outcome in advance. So your mind will automatically go to where you're putting your attention and energy. So you maintain this strong feeling of certainty that, hey, I'm going to manifest a solution to this little problem I have. Could be a little thing just today, or it could be a 6-month deal. Like, how am I going to deal with genuine wealth when it comes? And then the key thing here is to detach from the outcome. Your mind wants a result, a solution, but you put it out there. I am going to get the solution. I am the solution. And then you detach from it, and you let it come to you in the way that it will, rather than if you're trying to force it. What you're actually doing is you're thinking, oh my God, I don't have this, and I'm looking for it. That idea of I don't have it will push it away from you. It will literally block you from getting it. So you got to learn how to detach. In the same way with these multi-millions of dollars, you got to be a little bit detached from the stuff and keep yourself centered, and then, you're grateful and inspired, and then you just allow it to happen. And what happens is your mind will give you intuitive perceptions or direct ideas about, okay, this is what you got to do to manifest this solution, So that's the first part of the thing, of the document you have available to you guys for free, thanks to Bran. And then there's a second part where it takes you a little deeper and you really get into clarifying what you really believe and what your heart really wants. And it leads you through a process to clarify what that looks like, what that feels like, what that sounds like. And that's the road to manifesting your heart's desires. So I'll shut up now. I get rolling. I can't.
No, not at all. I think that was a very good, like a last touch on the document itself. That you are offering, right, for everyone, and that people can check out themselves. It's like 16 pages. Your information is there as well, and in the description. And once again, we'll be doing this again, and I think, for the next time, it would be cool for people like Finbear and Renob, however I say it, to call in and also, put some of their thoughts into it as well. So I can set that up for next time, get a Telegram room going, and looking forward to it, man. Thank you for coming on, sharing some of your story. I mean, once again, it's obviously, we can't cover like a whole lifetime in one stream, but that's what like the future streams will be for. And this is at least like a little taste, the first hit's free. So
that's what those drug addicts guys do to you. They give you the taste and then they get you sucked in, But
exactly. Same thing with like the the page that you've kind of given is, what was the analogy that I was trying to refer to, was the synopsis of, hey, if you liked what you heard Glenn talking about, well, then there's like 16 whole pages of it that are actionable that you can look into. So yeah, man, I guess without further ado, I'll probably end it here. I'll just do the outro, and then we'll do this some other time. And thank you again for coming on, man. I really appreciate you, sharing your story. And once again, you're another Hexican and PulseChain. And as I say, we all have our stories to share that people can benefit and value from.
Thank you, Bran. Appreciate you, man.
All right, guys, I'll do the outro and see everyone next time.
Be sure to hit that subscribe button. Be sure to like, be sure to share, be sure to comment. Say hey. Say hey. Say hey. Say hey. Say hey. Motherfucking jackpot. We still jackpot, bitch!
Thank you, Richard, for creating and founding the most amazing and disruptive financial technology cryptocurrency ever. Thank you, sir. And nice streams, Mr. Ballietbran.